Human.
The Fan welcomes some great shows to Mystic Lake Amphitheater. Guns N' Roses, August 8th. Leonard Skinner and Foreigner, August 16th. Motley Crue, August 21st. All the details on upcoming shows on our concert page, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Seifert in studio, guards in for Barreiro today. Brett Blakemore here as well. Lou Nanny will join about 90 minutes from now, his weekly Tuesday appearance on Bumper to Bumper. Questions for Seifert, Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686. More likely to be with the Vikings next year, Brian Flores or Harrison Smith?
I wrote earlier in the week about whether either one of them would be back.
Right.
Based on what I just said about head coach, the possibility of Brian Flores being a head coach, and my doubt that there's going to be a situation where somebody offers him a better option as a defensive coordinator than the Vikings will, I'll say it's more likely to be Flores. Harrison Smith has not wanted to talk about his future, and each of the past few years has kind of felt like this, where he's getting emotional after games.
Yeah.
And it's funny. He said everybody's reading into that. And he said the other day, he's like, that's been an issue. Like, I'm actually a lot more emotional than people realize. And my dad told me when I was a kid, I had to cut it out. And, so I don't it's hard to know if that really means anything, or he's just feeling sentimental,
Right.
because they played a good game and the fans were very supportive. And so, and he's had a few times these past few years where he took it into March in terms of whether he really wanted to play or not. And, I remember when Brett Favre used to talk about this, and he would say, you get to the end of the season and you can't imagine yourself going through
I remember it well.
all again.
Yep.
And then you kind of, in his words, you start to get the itch, and in his case, it wasn't until June or so after his retirement. But, I think there's a greater chance that Harrison Smith retires than Brian Flores leaves. But stranger things have happened.
Yeah, you mentioned, I'm glad you reminded me of the Harrison Smith speech, basically. I think every Vikings fan had to love that, what he said.
Yeah, I was
after
there when
the
he
game.
said that.
I'm
yeah.
sure you were, yeah. And because I didn't see a lot of that game. Doesn't sound like I missed a lot other than the halftime show. And my guy Brosmer, we're going to talk about him.
Okay.
Didn't acquit himself too well until the game was on the line, and he's nails to JJ for 5 yards.
10.
Picks up the first down and gets into positive passing territory. But, yeah, you're right. I was convinced last year in the playoffs after they lost to the Rams, he's crying, full on crying in the locker room. It's like, that's it, it's over. And so I was stunned they even got this year out of him. But he's still playing pretty well. I feel like he's played better the last month or so. Am I just wishing that, or is that fair?
He definitely has made more plays from impact plays, and he had the personal health issue over the summer, and he said the other day that that wiped out basically all his off-season strength workouts, and so he was definitely starting when he missed the first few games, and then the next few games it was definitely on a deficit, and he was on a pitch count, and he really didn't become a full-time player again until after the bye. And then I think it still took him some time. There was weeks when he'd come in the locker room and he just looked exhausted.
Yeah.
And so, but he built it back up. And I'd say this past month or so, between this arrangement he has with Flores in terms of picking from a group of possible calls, and that's put himself in a lot of really good positions to make plays, and just what looked like spry, fresh legs. I don't know how he accomplished that, given the way the year started, but he appears to have very fresh legs for this time of year and his age, and so that has been notable as well. And so the previous years with Flores, he hasn't necessarily been like this great playmaker that or the hit man that you remember in terms of just blowing people up all the time, but he's really become a very different kind of player, and one that can still be very effective, and the other night proved it.
I like this text because it's just a statement, and then you take it wherever you want. This is from Brian to the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. Garrett Bradbury, and I'm not even fact checking this. I'm just going with it. Garrett Bradbury, Ezra Cleveland, and Ed Ingram will be in the NFL playoffs.
So Ed Ingram's with Houston, and Garrett Bradbury is with the Patriots, and Ezra Cleveland is with the Jaguars. So, yes.
So how are they starters for NFL teams, and we had no use for them and still have offensive line problems? That's my question off the statement. I kind of lied about how, but
that's fair.
People have noticed that.
Yeah, and so I Ed Ingram did not look very good to me. Like it felt like they went multiple years too long with him as it was.
He came up in a lot of bad Vikings talking points brought to you by Federated Mutual Insurance.
In terms of the draft and all that, yeah. And then I was watching him against Kansas City, and at least when Chris Jones was lined up over him, he was not faring very well. But clearly, he's been good enough to start for a team that's probably going to win or if it doesn't win its division, it's going to certainly make the playoffs. And so, and then the Ezra Cleveland thing, I think he was just not wanting to sign him to a contract extension, but they end up signing Will Fries a few years later to probably a bigger one than Ezra Cleveland would have gotten. But, there's a little revisionism there because I think that, for as much as people talk offensive line to the extent that they do, there was a lot of Garrett Bradbury hate. There was a lot of Ezra Cleveland hate, especially after that 2022 playoff game against the Giants when Dexter Lawrence just kind of blew them up. And so, just because they're playing, I don't know if they're playing any better for those teams than they did here. And so I don't blame them for trying to upgrade at those positions. Whether they executed well at that is another story. But yes, that is a fact that all three of those guys will likely be in the playoffs.
Ryan Kelly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be it, doesn't it? I mean, what is this, 6 now, concussions?
Yeah, 3 this year, total of 6. It's even like if you don't want to have the, very personal conversation about, long-term effects of brain injuries, and people have their own research and their own opinion on what they think that is or isn't and how much of a real thing that is or isn't. I happen to think it's very real and very concerning, but, he just, you can't go into a season saying this is our starting center and,
right.
and I think he missed 8 games this year. And so, or played 8 games. So he's going to end up missing 9. And it's just not reliable enough from a physical standpoint for them to go into the year next year. You wouldn't think at that position. I mean, most teams don't have 2 good centers because just roster construction, and it's a hard position to find anyway. And so they asked us this week ESPN did to come up with what's their biggest draft need. And so I think there's a lot of positions where you could talk about, but in terms of acute need, that might be center. Because, I mean, they do have a backup in Michael Juergens, who will be the starter. But when they had a choice, I think they were going with Blake Brandel, who had never played center before. And so that was in part because they wanted Brandel on the field, and in part because they clearly didn't, that wasn't a huge vote of confidence for Michael Juergens there. So I don't know if they necessarily have next year's center on the roster. So from that perspective, it's one of the most, and it's obviously an important position, as we saw, because when Ryan Kelly did play, he was really good. Right. But it just didn't do it enough.
How closely do you sit to Alec Lewis from The Athletic at US Bank Stadium?
Further and further away each week. No, I'm kidding. A couple seats away. Usually it's me and then your guy, John Krasinski.
Okay.
And then Alec. And Krasinski hasn't shown up lately because I guess the Wolves are in season.
Yes.
And so it's just been one seat in between us.
Okay, so pretty close. I ask because I'm curious, as I can't call him a co-founder of Brosmer Brownstones, but he was an early investor. How did he take the performance? Did you notice any like Sid Hartman muttering or swearing or throwing of objects when our guy Brosmer was struggling?
With Sid, there was different levels of denial, because sometimes a guy could be doing fine in his mind, but the officials were just not letting it happen the way it should. And so sometimes he would find fault there. Sometimes it could be the coach's fault, and sometimes it was the player's fault. I think Alec is doing just fine. The thing with Max is, and you look at people who have been, when he first signed here, I think people responsibly said that this is a guy that one of the teams that has some of the better quarterback evaluators and coaches think could be a long-term backup in the league. No one with any level of responsibility or credibility in this area, as you're hiding behind the monitor, thought that Max Brosmer was going to be.
You're calling me irresponsible, at least to my face.
Yeah, I
appreciate
right here in
it.
the studio.
Yeah,
thought that this was like the next Brock Purdy, even though I know that was repeated in a lot of places, and not even just here, and so. But that didn't mean he was ready to do it right away. We talk all this about, how many years it was going to take JJ McCarthy. And, as good as Max looked in training camp relative to what he was doing against the third, string defense and, the way he played in the preseason, there was reason to think that there's something there. And I think there probably is something there, but, this has been about as bad of a 2-game start as you can have. And I hope that, because of the circumstances were that he had to play, there was no other really options in that point. And so I hope that those 2 starts aren't, debilitating to his career arc, even if the career arc was going to be as a backup for a few years, because I think there's something there. But in terms of being ready to do it this year, it proved to not be the case.
Oh, when they needed a third down conversion,
he sure did.
They put the ball in whose hands?
Yes, and I think. I don't know. He had thrown 4 interceptions against the Seahawks, and it was
including the complete meltdown.
And it was just it was just bad. And so he very much played like someone who felt like, and maybe had been told, I think he probably was, do not turn the ball over. As long as you don't turn the ball over, we got a pretty good shot here with defense and special teams and running game. And so he kind of played like somebody who was number one goal. And there was a list of 1 goal, only 1 goal on the entire sheet of paper was to not turn the ball over. And that's how you get to 51 total yards over the course of an entire game.
Is he the starter this weekend?
I asked O'Connell that yesterday, and he said that they would get him ready, but they would also get John Wolford ready and Brett Rippon, who's back.
Yep.
I personally think there's like zero benefit to playing. Wolford is a veteran guy. It's great. Right. Rippon, fine. But to me, as we've talked about how consequence free this game is, I don't know if there's any upside to playing either one of those guys and give, unless you're worried about breaking Max, which I don't think they are. And I don't think they weren't
about Carson.
No. And I mean, like from a mental standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think I don't think he's near that. And I don't think that they have identified that as being something, but that would be the one reason to not play him, is if you think his confidence is so shattered that it would actually make things worse. And so, but I don't think they think that's the case. And, I would assume that he would be the guy if JJ can't go.
Can you hang for 10 more minutes?
Sure.
You got another 7. I know you want to get back out on the roads.
No, I think they're fine. Has anyone gotten back to you on the text line about? Maybe we'll look at the break. I don't know.
I mean, they've basically confirmed what.
Oh, they did.
What you've confirmed is they need different chemicals. And we need people out there. And it's been a day and a half. Have some patience. Your Edina's showing. You're spoiled. I'm just trying to keep everybody safe. I drove in a lot of towns today. None of them were Edina.
Yeah.
None of them were Edina. I do want to broaden out a little bit. A couple more Vikings texts, 64686, but I want to talk about just the playoff picture in general. Obviously, there's some big games this weekend. There was a great game on Sunday night. We got to talk about the Bears because I thought that was an awesome game, even though like half the team had the flu. A lot more to get to with Seifert, and we'll do that in our final segment with him next.
We've got your shot. The tickets to this weekend's border battle all week long. All you got to do is show us your purple preset. Set KFAN as a preset on the iHeartRadio app. Screenshot it. Post it with the hashtag KFAN Purple Preset to your social media. Make sure you follow and tag KFAN as well. Winners will be DM'd this Friday. Full rules, KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
Final few minutes with Kevin Seifert from ESPN, ESPN.com, joining his usual Tuesday spot on the Bumper to Bumper show. Guardsy in for Barreiro today. Lou Nanny joins about an hour from now. Brett Blakemore will have the top 5 at 5, about 40 minutes from now. Had I told you on Tuesday, what would this have been? Tuesday, September 10th, or I guess Tuesday, September 9th, if I'm looking at it correctly, that the Vikings' victory over the Chicago Bears, in hindsight, maybe one of the most impressive that they had all season, at least on paper. Week 1, that Monday night game, I think.
Yeah.
What would you have told me?
I did not think. I thought there were some interesting things going on for the Bears, but they did not strike me as a team that was going to win the division. And I think they started 0-2. They lost the following week.
52-21 to the Lions.
Yeah. And so I remember thinking, wow, like after that outcome, maybe the Vikings only beating them by coming back in the fourth quarter was not that as impressive because they seemed to be a doormat at that point. But they got it turned around, and people have compared them to the 2022 Vikings that everybody just kept saying, like, they're not that good of a team. They just keep winning. I don't get it. But there's a very small line between that and being a good team that just finds ways to lose. And so they've certainly, I don't think anyone would doubt right now that they're the best team in the NFC North.
No, they are.
It's not like it's a fluke division win, or they should have, the Lions should have done it, or the Packers would have done it if. The Packers were not good enough to protect that lead a couple weeks ago, and the Bears were good enough to overcome that deficit. And so, to me, and I would not have guessed it. And even when Dan asked me towards, but 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the season, I think I was still saying the Packers. And so, but that's why they play the games.
What's interesting is, coaching matters, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm trying to figure out, because Caleb looked pretty good the other night. Caleb's played okay. He made some, now he did, and whoever was doing the game, it was Collinsworth and Tirico.
He was hammering him, I thought.
There was that one throw where he scrambled and the guy was wide open.
Yeah, there was like 2 or 3 of those. And he nailed him every time.
He did. And he said, that's the third time he's been wide open. I'm like, yeah, but he's going toe-to-toe with Purdy. They're going up and down the field.
Yeah.
And Collinsworth loves everybody.
Yeah.
So it was a little weird. But he's played pretty well.
Yeah. He's taken a big leap. I don't think anybody would look at, if you've, and I haven't, but the people I think who have watched him play to play, from the start of training camp to now, would not say that he has proved, that he's going to be the greatest quarterback in Bears history, even though that's not a long list of people. And that's part of the point. That he has played much better than he did last year, and he seems to be in a much better offensive scheme. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so they're getting more out of him. Whether that means he's going to be a guy who is good enough to have a team make the playoffs most years, or if he's going to be good enough to transcend whatever level of team he's on, and can be the guy who wins you a Super Bowl. Or takes you to a Super Bowl. I think that's very much left to be determined, but he's certainly gotten already to the level where he can be a big part of a reason why a team makes the playoffs.
What is the Kyle Shanahan secret sauce? How do they just keep churning it out over and over again?
Yeah, he's very good at finding mismatches, at setting up plays, a lot of things that people talk about with Kevin O'Connell as well. But I don't think anyone would doubt that Shanahan's probably the best at being able to, to pick the right play at the right time, to set up the right series of plays, to know intuitively what a defense is going to be vulnerable to be willing to, and he has kind of pretty much personnel say out there. So to be willing to be so convicted in those things, that he spends money on positions that you wouldn't if you were doing a strict analytics. They spend so much money on running backs. It's wild. But that's such a crucial part of their offense, and not just running the ball, but throwing it to those guys as well. And they've had some hits and misses. I remember when they signed Jerick McKinnon from here, and they spent a ton of money to do it, and he ended up getting hurt, and so he wasn't able to fulfill those wishes. But he has that personnel ability to do that, and just is just very skilled at being able to call a combination of plays and install a combination of schemes that work in the given week that they're doing it.
Seahawks Niners for the number 1 seed. Is that the deal?
Yes. Yep. Now that the Rams lost last night. And so that's the tough one for Seattle, because they played in Charlotte on Sunday. So they fly, and this is part of just the tax of being in the Pacific Northwest, but they had to fly all the way back across the country and then have a short week and then fly again to San Francisco for a shorter flight. But,
Darnold has a chance to redeem himself though. on the road, week 18.
He's already. It's amazing how that's set up to be the exact same thing. A road game for all the marbles. He's already, though, no matter what happens, the first quarterback in NFL history to win 13 plus games with two different teams back to back. Because normally a guy who wins 13, or in this case 14 games, doesn't leave. So
that's wild. It's
probably a small sample size of people who ever had that, who won that many games and then went to a different team. But it speaks to the unusual nature of what all happened here. And, now coming up on 10, 11 months ago.
If San Francisco wins that game, I heard yesterday, they could basically end the season on a 6-game home winning streak and win the Super Bowl. Or 5 games, whatever it is.
Speaking to Shanahan, that's what he said after the games. We have an opportunity to never have to leave San Francisco. And that's also true if they get the number 1 seed and lose, but they wouldn't have to leave either. But they can go from from the second to last game, regular season game of the year through the Super Bowl, playing all their games in their home stadium, because that's where the Super Bowl is this year.
So what happens after the game this weekend for the ESPN reporter? Well, yeah, you've got locker clean out day. You always love that one.
That's a big one. There'll be a press conference at some point within that first week with the general manager and the head coach, where we try to pull out of them exactly what they're going to do every day of the free agency and the off season, and we'll see how far they go there. And then it's then we focus on the playoffs, and see if there's any other things we can do on different teams. And but before you know it, we'll be past the Super Bowl. It never
really stops,
right? We'll be past the Super Bowl. The combine comes up a few weeks after that, sometimes 2.5 weeks after that, and then we're off to the races.
2 quick texts for you before you head out. What's more complicated in our state? Pure progression in the pocket or preventative protection on our highways? Baseball's backed up Brosmer bumper to bumper. And then this one, Paul from Maple Grove wants to settle everybody down. Snow removal operator checking in. I'm coming up to a 19-hour stint removing snow and applying salt. Guardsy, tell the people to settle down. We can only remove so much at once, and not everyone gets to be first. Love you guys.
Well, how do you feel now?
I mean, he's asking me to settle down. Yeah.
Well, no, he didn't. He asked you to settle everyone else down, and here you are.
And I'm the one riling everybody up.
You're the riling up. The guy's been working 19 straight hours.
Yeah. Well, he's funny. He had time to text. I mean, I'd get back to work.
We got voice to text, right, Blake?
I'm kidding, Paul. Thank you. Good. Keep working. I'm sorry that the rain, screwed it up for us. And what were all the things that McCarthy was having problems with, like the biomechanics? Remember, we had all those excuses forever. Like, that's what I feel like we're getting right now with the Snownomi.
Well, I think
just simplify, just get it off.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. It's going to be warmer. That's the big thing.
Drive safely home.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in. Happy New Year. Any New Year's plans? You rip it up on New Year's, don't you?
Well, I got to work the next day, so I got to.
I suppose
I got to keep it toned down, which is probably what I would be doing anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Thanks, Kevin.
All right.
Kevin Seifert from ESPN and ESPN.com. When we come back, how far away? We're going to play something called How Far Away Do You Feel? You look tired too, Brett Blakemore. You going to be all right?
I've been here for a minute.
You got a top 5 and 5.
I feel like I've done a 19-hour shift.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's the same. Clearing snow and being on the radio.
Very similar, yes.
Very similar. Very similar. Well, we'll try to get you through the next 2 hours. Got the top 5 and 5 coming up. Lou Nanny at 5:30. But when we come back, how far away do we feel?
It's your final shot to win sweet tickets this Saturday, Coors Light Hockey Night. You can join Corey Cove, Firehouse Grill, in Elko New Market, 8 to 10 p.m. Catch Minnesota take on L.A. Enjoy drink specials, play hockey trivia for your shot at great prizes, including those sweet tickets. The details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Guardsy in Bumper to Bumper today. We've got World Juniors tomorrow, after Minnesota Wild hockey tomorrow in the afternoon. Got Best of on New Year's Day, and then I'll be back for, I think, a 90-minute show on Friday, because guess what? We've got more World Juniors. It's December. Why not? Brett Blakemore here as well. Lou Nanny will join about an hour from now. The top 5 at 5 coming up. Before we play a game called How Far Away Do You Feel? I've seen this text a couple of different times. We played the Brian Flores comments and read the Brian Flores comments today based upon the Kevin Seifert question, do you want to be back here? And something where Flores said, "I've loved my time in Minnesota." And internet sleuths and I think arsonless firefighters have been parsing those comments and going, what does he mean loved? What does he mean loved like it's past tense? Does that mean he's already got his foot out the door? Does that mean he's already got a secret deal with somebody else? Does that mean he's leaving? I would cue the Mike Tice, okay, calm down. I think what he means is I have loved it. And if I stay, I will probably continue to love it. We don't have to make a mountain out of that molehill. Is that fair? I know you don't text and talk more with Flo than people know, but
I think I'm the furthest away from that.
Probably.
Maybe.
I think we're trying a little bit too hard to read into what he's saying. He said, I've loved it here. It's been great. It's been a good fit football-wise. And honestly, football-wise, he's going to get to do whatever he wants at any stop that he makes as a defensive coordinator. He's earned it. He's been really, really good in the 3 years that he's been here. And the performance they put on the other day was masterful. And he's got so much control over what they run. I don't think KOC's checking in on many defensive meetings, right? Doesn't seem like he's going, I wonder what Flo's up to today. I'm going to go make sure he's covering this pressure package. Pretty sure he gets to basically run his side and handle his ship with a P. My voice is weird today, so I want to make sure I enunciate. He gets to pretty
You don't
much
want to pull a Patera.
No, exactly, for your sake. So he gets to do whatever he wants to do. He's picking the players that he wants in free agency and presumably the draft. So he's got a pretty good gig here. I will say, though, I do view him as pretty indispensable moving forward, at least in the short term for the Vikings. I know there's always another coach, and I probably worry about who the guy's going to be after the guy more than most people. But I think he's one of the best. I think it's proof he's one of the best. He was already hired as a head coach, which means he had already done really good work before, good enough to get a head coaching job. We know that it was a disaster in Miami for a million different reasons. Some of them him, some of them not. He clearly didn't want to have Tua as the quarterback. I'm pretty sure he's been vindicated on that take, on that hot take. He got overruled by the owner, as the story goes, and they had to take Tua, I think, pick 10 in the first round. And even though my guy, Mike McDaniel, put his arms around Tua and just believed in him so much, that worked for like a day and a half or like a year and a half. And now he's a $212 million backup, essentially, right? I think I saw that headline. He signed a big contract and he really hasn't been very good. So I find it hard to believe that Flores would find a better football situation than the one he has already in terms of what he's allowed to do, the leeway that he has, all the input that he gets. So if he's leaving, to me, it's for a head coaching job or somebody just offers, because the Wills would be stupid, and I don't think they would. I don't think like financially it's going to be an issue. They've never struck me to be like the pole ads on the east side of town, right? The east side pole ads. They spend money. They get money and they get breaks, and they got help from us to build the beautiful palace. And I'm sure they got great deals to build what they've built out in Eagan there, but they've never been afraid to invest in the team. So financially, it would seem like that's a no-brainer. And I just think I love the vibe about it right now. And the fact that the defense has continued to play so well pretty much all season when the offense has been essentially a failure all season long even gives him more leverage to say, yeah, let's do the business side of things and let's make sure I'm taken care of here.
Yeah, he ended up getting the last laugh when it comes to Tua turn the ball over. He was right.
You've had that,
turns out.
You've had that in the holster.
Yeah, I was in the chamber for a while.
Yeah, you've been waiting for that one.
Yeah, didn't come up with that one. The one thing we fear the most in this town is people taking our stuff and people leaving for the coasts or the big markets. I was fearing Kaprizov. I was biting my metaphorical fingernails until that contract got done because I was convinced he would want to go to, and not rationally, just irrationally, because that's what happens in this town. So then when we get any evidence to that, regardless if it's valid or not, we latch onto it like it's confirmation bias. Like, well, hey, he said past tense. There he goes.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a part of living in this town.
We need to nut up a little bit because he's just answering
calm
the question.
down.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Just relax. It doesn't really mean anything. I'm not all that worried about it. And I think he probably will end. I don't think he's leaving here for another defensive coordinator job. I just think, unless he thinks the quarterback situation is so helpless and hopeless that they're going to win 5 games again next season and he wants to go try to win a championship somewhere. That's the only thing I could come up with. But he even said the football stuff is working out. He basically said it's the business stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with that. So I think everything's going to be fine. I think everything's going to be fine. Now, if he gets offered a head coaching job, he's probably gone. He should take it, depending on the gig, because he's probably smart enough to know you really only get, most guys get 1, some guys get 2. Very few guys, unless they have ridiculous success, get 3 cracks at being a head coach, right? Yeah. So I'm sure, and he has said as much as well, that he's going to be pretty picky about his next opportunity, I would imagine, if he wants to be a head coach. But I hope he stays. I was telling somebody this past week, as a fan, every time they flash to him, and I've probably said this to you, every time they cut to him and the Vikings defense is on the field, I just feel like something good is going to happen. He just has like a vibe and an aura that I've got this. My guys have got this. Hitman's out there. Grenard's out, but Grenard's over there. Gink's over here. Cashman's there. Like, we're good. Because who was the old Falcons head coach? Arthur, was it Smith? Yeah, Mike Smith. No, Smith was his name. Like, as a contrast, and I think we played them last year or 2 years ago. Every time they cut to him, if I was a Falcons fan, I would have been just terrified. Like, what is going to happen?
Same with Eberflus.
Eberflus is another great example.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy back in the day. Like,
Zimmer?
Nothing. No, Zimmer was fine. Nothing good. It took us to our last NFC championship game.
That's true.
Right?
That's unquestionable.
So, but when they cut to those guys, you just go, well, this is not going to work out. Yeah. This is I have no confidence at all, if I'm a fan, that this is a situation that's going to be beneficial for me, us, the team, anybody. This sucks. With Flores, it's the opposite. It's just, he's got it figured out. And he's got the guys. He knows the team. He's scheming them up, especially if it's like a young quarterback. He's going to just carve that guy up. 6 turnovers the other day against the Lions on Christmas Day with Snoop in the wings. That's pretty good. And I know the Lions aren't the Lions that they've been, but they had a lot to play for that day, if I remember correctly, right? And yeah. I think it was the final playoff spot. And the Flow-Nami preceded the Snow-Nami and ran them out of town, essentially, offensively. So I just have so much confidence in him that it would take a pretty special dude to replace that. So I think they understand that. Obviously, KOC understands that. And hopefully he's back again next season.
It's already started on the text line. Ben in Roseville texts in, wait until the Giants come calling. Big city market. Here we go. I'm telling you, there's just something in the water here that and maybe it's, I don't know, does it go back to Ortiz? Does it go back to KG? Like, just people leaving us for the big time markets. Well, we're just terrified.
Yeah. I mean, it all started, I think, and people in Minnesota, if he's listening, could maybe come up with the origin story better. But I'll just say let's just take the Gophers, for example, my Gopher jobs. Lou Holtz leaving for Notre Dame in the 80s completely ruined everything because he was here. He was the one that said we should stay in the Metrodome, which set us back generations of fans. And just now, 15 years into Huntington Bank Stadium, there's actually people like my age that have gone to school at the U, tailgated at the U. Now they bring their families to the games, and it's actually a pretty fun vibe on a Saturday because the students are there. They've got young alumni there now. It's completely changed from when I started. But that's where it started with Gopher stuff, with Holtz, is he left for Notre Dame. Why wouldn't so-and-so leave for Notre Dame? Or why wouldn't so-and-so leave for, when Tubby Smith was here? Or Richard Pitino had different opportunities early on in his tenure.
PJ Fleck to UCLA talks. And
PJ was, for 5 straight years was linked to some job. And now PJ's been here long enough where if he left, I would be bummed because selfishly, I like working with him. And it makes my job harder to have to start over with a whole new staff. And you know this. I think he's done a good job here. I think this job is really hard. And even talking to your guy, Jason Eck, the next Wisconsin head coach at New Mexico, he brought it up, talking about the Gophers, saying it's a hard place to win in general. He goes, it's become even harder now that they've taken the West Division away from all of us. And he said, I think you see Wisconsin having some issues adjusting to life without the West. Like, it was
nice to get almost a free pass to Indy for like a decade.
But at least you had that carrot and you could, right? And you say, and so he mentioned like it's a tough place. But after, like, if PJ wanted to leave now, let's say Kyle Whittingham didn't go to Michigan and they got a couple of more no's. And all of a sudden they say, look, this guy's won a lot of games at Minnesota and he's a culture guy and the kids are going to go to class and they're going to be good in the community and they're going to be pretty consistent. And yeah, do people always love when he runs the ball on 3rd and 9, which he, by the way, hasn't done all that much the last couple of years when he's had a good quarterback. I'd understand. So look, you've given a decade, like Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Right? Like he had some big moments at Iowa State. He was there 11 years, I think. Like at some point, you kind of get over that paranoia and you get over that fear. But I do think Holtz was the one that ruined it for Gopher fans. But you mentioned the leaving part, and it tripped me onto a Gopher thing that I want to bring up quickly. And I don't know, we may get to how far away do you feel. It's pretty evergreen because
you got to pay off the tees.
Our teams are always far away. And we've got
maybe not one of them.
We've got time to do it. But Anthony Smith, the all Big Ten offensive line or defensive lineman, announced after the game where he was completely dominant, and I think showed why he's not playing in the Mountain West. He's playing in the Big Ten because he completely just destructed a Mountain West team, which he should do, right? But he was phenomenal, like so good. Sacks, batted down passes, tackles for loss. He was great. He announced that he was coming back for his final year. And I said this on the Parent and Spare podcast earlier today that we'll drop at some point whenever I have time to post it because I just haven't had time to do it today. We need to get over the fear of people leaving us, just like with Flo here and just like with whomever. Like most of the time it doesn't happen. Most of the time, and even if it does, you'll probably figure it out. You'll be good. But I don't know if I ranted on this with you, but in October, everyone was telling me that Drake Lindsay was just going to take the biggest bag possible. And even though it's maybe the best quarterback that they've had in a really long time, enjoy him while you can because someone's going to pay him and he's going to go to the portal and you're never going to see him again. Well, Drake Lindsay announced like a week ago he's coming back. Darius Taylor doesn't know if he's coming back or not, but he's not going to the portal. He said that last week in Phoenix. And Anthony Smith has been getting calls for 3 years to go somewhere else. And he's coming back. So can we stop with the laziness? Can we stop with the stupidity? Can we stop? I'm not saying a player's never going to leave Minnesota and get more money somewhere, or Brian Flores isn't going to leave, but it doesn't happen. It's not as automatic as people might think it is. So I think we just need to get over that a little bit.
I agree.
That's all.
I didn't know you were going for me for more.
You never agree. You never agree with me on college football.
Well, I mean, yeah, and Minnesota, by the way, quick to say that Bud Grant passed over Buddy Ryan for defense coordinator. He left to Chicago, 85 Bears.
Well, that is that's okay, but that's a totally different topic.
Correct.
That's not somebody leaving us, but it is. But there's a whole other subset of paranoia in that. Look at Denny Green's assistant coaches in the 90s. Into Brad Childress's assistant coaches later. Denny Green on the staff in 1998. I don't think Dungy was still there, but he had been on the staff previously. Dungy, I think, was in his first year in Tampa. Tony Dungy won a Super Bowl after leaving Minnesota as the head coach. Now he's Tony Dungy. Now, anytime there's an opening anywhere, the joke around here is called Tony Dungy. People wanted him to be the Minnesota football coach for the last 15 years. Like if PJ left today, somebody would say, how come they don't give Dungy a look? He probably wants to get back in. And I'm not even making that up. Somebody would text it, and they'd be serious. That's Tony Dungy. Brian Billick was the offensive coordinator in 1998. He won a Super Bowl 2 years later with the Baltimore Ravens. They beat the New York Giants, who beat the Vikings 41-donut in that NFC Championship game. Mike Tomlin was the defensive coordinator for Brad Childress for one season. He won a Super Bowl, I think, 3 years after that, and is still in Pittsburgh. Now, this might be the final time.
This could be it.
But when he was the defensive coordinator here, I was 25 years old. I'm now 43 years old. It's been a pretty good run. So we've had a run of we kept the wrong guy. And I remember thinking that when Tomlin was here, like what a stud he was, what a leader he was. Lieber has talked about it. Playing for him was pure electricity. Everybody loved it. So there's that part of it too. Like sometimes the assistant in waiting, you wish he was going to be your head coach. Denny a little harder because he won a bunch, but Childress for sure. I would have made that trade even at the time, even in his first year, because there was always something with Childress. I talked about it with Seifert. It was guys get the head coaching job and all of a sudden they're a completely different person than they were on the way up, and they feel like they have to act a certain way, and they rub people the wrong way, and even all the crap that went on with Favre. So, I don't know.
Do you think that's closer to like a Tomlin? Because Flores, to me, I think of more, there's guys who we really value, who are really good and elite, and we're worried are going to leave us for New York or LA or big time money. And then there's option B, where we let a guy go who we think was nothing, and they turn out to be really good, like an Ortiz. I feel like this is more in the Justin Jefferson, Kirill Kaprizov paranoia more than it is the Tony Dungy Tomlin, because that's two different sets of paranoia that we have to deal with.
Yeah,
and yes, I said we. There
was a run of players that went to bigger markets, but KG had to be talked into being traded. KG didn't want to leave right away.
Yeah.
KG was a loyal guy. Still is a loyal guy.
Welcome back.
And he's back in the organization in the fold now, so that's good. But he had to kind of be talked into it because he wanted to be a one-team guy for his whole career. But they basically said, we're never going to win here. We're just never going to win here with you. You're going to be wasted. And so, but that started it. Like Johan Santana, they also had to trade. That was different because I hope people are sitting down or have two hands on the wheel and they're driving through these icy conditions. The Pohlads weren't going to pay Johan Santana, I think a 7-year, $100 million contract is what he ended up getting for the Mets. Now, fairness to them, I don't think Johan pitched that entire contract. He threw the one no-hitter, threw like 150 pitches and was never the same guy. But the entire time he was here, especially later on when he was racking up Cy Youngs and was about to hit free agency, everybody just kind of knew he was probably on his way somewhere else. But it wasn't like his choice to leave necessarily, is because they traded him to the Mets.
And Buxton probably not far behind.
What do you mean?
Well, isn't he on the way potentially? I mean, they've talked about it. Like, well,
yeah, I've
got my no move, but
yeah, he's more open to it than he appeared to be at the end of it. And we'll see where this whole thing goes now that Tom Pohlad's in charge, the new Pohlad.
You never know.
And I hope it was a good Christmas for the Pohlad family. I hope everything was okay and it wasn't too awkward around the Pohlad family Christmas tree this year with brothers Tom and Joe. Probably not exchanging gifts. Hopefully they got somebody else for Secret Santa and they didn't have to worry about what was going on there. And then in that time, Ortiz left. That was a poor choice. But we've had a run. We had a run there in the late aughts, early teens, where it did seem like anytime anybody left here, things would go badly for us and much better for the team that was receiving the player. So I don't know. With Flo, I just feel like unless it's a head coaching job and it's a great situation, I feel like he's coming back. I think everybody there knows how important he is to the whole operation. I certainly think KOC gets that. I think Flores understands what a good situation he's in the fact that he basically gets to do his own thing. So to bring it full circle, I don't worry a ton about it, and I hope he's back because I think he's done a really good job. Let's get to the top 5 at 5 when we come back. We've got Lou Nanny at 5:30. Like I said, how far away do you feel is something evergreen because history tells us we're going to remain far away from everything. And when I say how far away do you feel from a championship, not a championship as much, but like contending for a championship, because as you know, I tell you this all the time, Brett, championships are hard to come by, right?
Only one team wins them per year.
Only one team wins them per year. History tells us it's not going to be us, no matter how stacked the team is. And so all you can ask for is, are you in that mix? Are you in the conversation? Are you in the Final Four? Are you in a championship game? And then you see what happens after that. How far away do you feel from all of those respective to the core 4 sports here is what I want to get into at some point. Maybe today, maybe on Friday, not exactly sure.
Well, we could get into it in top 5 at 5 because one team is inching ever closer.
I have a feeling I know which team it is. And Beyond the Pond was 4 hours ago.